Good morning. I'm making this video for parents who are wondering where they can see their students' assignments and their locations and checking whether or not their students' work is done. Because I know that's been a really tough problem lately, especially with the remote students, is knowing if they're done, and if they're not, how can we keep them accountable for finishing their work? So Canvas is the place where Dr. Franco assigns a lot of her assignments. I don't really use Canvas for math, science, and social studies, but they do have their submission checklist in here that I do use. So if you click on submission checklist, you're taken to this page where we have a math, a science, and a social studies sections, as well as a work calendar. So actually going through and checking these off, unfortunately, has become a monumental task. But that's not to say the students still can't use this. So if they see an assignment name here, the Big Bicycle Worksheet, Google Classroom for Remote, Paper for Traditional, we can see that, like, for traditional students, they would have done this on paper. For remote students, there's a direct link to their assignment in Google Classroom. They just need to click it, go look at that assignment, and see if they finished it or not. With this next slide, we can see that it says Google Classroom for all. That means all students completed in Google Classroom. So everyone should be able to click that and see whether their assignment is done. So there is a tab for math, science, and social studies, and even if the check marks aren't there, they can still click, they can still look at these titles, click on the links, and complete the assignments, check mark or not. Because I want most of the kids to be done before I check mark it off, or I'm having to go back and look at it over and over and over again. So there's a tab for math, science, and social studies, and then there's a work calendar. The work calendar does pretty much the same thing. It shows a calendar. It says the titles of what we did and the assignment location, whether it was in Google Classroom, paper, Canvas, or STEM Scopes. So this can be a good tool for them to make sure that they've got all of their assignments in, especially the ones I'm going to grade before the 9 weeks, because we do a lot of work. So not every single thing we do will be put in the grade book. But if I put it on the checklist, it's most likely going to be in the grade book. Now, as you saw, these are linked directly to their Google Classroom. So if they click that link and, their assignment was in Google Classroom because they were either a remote student or a traditional student who was doing a Google Classroom assignment that day, then you'll be taken here and there's a your work right here. And that's where their slides are. I mostly do things on slides, Google Slides. So if you click their slides and have them open them for you, you should be able to flip through really quick and see what's done. So for example, this student needs to finish these last 3, which makes sense because that's what I assigned them to do for today. But they do have, the first couple of slides done, which is what we want to see. So once the slides are completely finished, that student will press turn in and they will be done, and I will see that they are all done with that assignment. If they press turn in but the assignment is blank, I don't always catch that, and that causes a lot of problems, and usually it makes them fail the assignment because I don't notice it until I sit down to grade it, and by that time it's too late for them to, go back and fix that. Plus, with 5th graders, they know, and I've said, they should not be turning in blank assignments. Because I think the thought process is that I'm not checking to see if it's actually done. But of course, when I grade it, I can see that it's clearly, still blank. So Google Classroom looks like this when you enter. It has a stream with all the assignments we do just laid out in the order that I've assigned them, from earliest to last. So if you also want to keep track of your students' assignments, you can have them go into their Google Classroom and ask to see everything from that day. So if I want to check on my students' work from February 2nd, I can see these two both are from February 2nd. This one, February 24th, February 23rd. And I could ask them to click on it, open it up, and show me their slides to see what is done and what needs to be done. In Google Classroom, you can also click on the classwork to see it broken up, not by when it was posted last, but instead into categories: science, math, and social studies. We have a math lesson every single day. We have a new math lesson every single day. If your student's remote, it will always be a digital one. If they're traditional. It might be digital, it might be paper, just depends on the lesson. But you can always come in here and check the title of the assignment. We'll say the date it was assigned, and you'll be able to open up their slides to see what they've done and what they haven't done. And then the only other place I would recommend that you have them check out is maybe their Google Drive. So if you head straight to Google Drive, it will show them all of their assignments just kind of laid out in here, so they don't have to access it through Google Classroom. So it's all the stuff we've done over the past 9 weeks, but you can have them open it up this way and say, okay, what is this? This was just a Valentine's Day thing. That's not work. This is their work for today. Reading sorts for Dr. Franco. So that is something that is to be done. This is their social studies work for today. There's that checklist that we looked at earlier. Here's their multiplication problems from today. And again, they're in the titles as well. If I hover over it, I can see Friday, 2/26/21. So I can see this for today. Here's their science for today. And just have them open those slides for you and show you that they are done. If they are blank, missing, then, obviously they're not using the class time wisely. Nothing I assign, all of these slides are designed to be completed within the day. They are not made to be overboard and go into the afternoon. Their students are given usually at least an hour for math assignments a day, even though they're only 5 to 10 questions. So there's really no excuse why those shouldn't be being completed during class. So if the school day ends and they're showing you assignments, they're opening up assignments that are still blank, that's going to tell you that they weren't actually doing their work for that day. Like, all of this should be sorted. This is today's work, so it makes sense that it's not sorted yet. But if this was last week's work, I should see all of these things sorted, and I should also see it turned in on Google Classroom. I hope that helps, and please let me know if you have any questions.